Chloe Mendez always believed she could outsmart the system until the system started watching her every move. It started like a social media experiment gone wrong, something that could only happen in the age of viral fame. 19-year-old Chloe Mendez had built her entire world online. Every meal, every outfit, every minor argument with her parents somehow became content for her followers. She wasn't a celebrity in the traditional sense, but to her fans, she was everything. Her videos were bright and funny, filled with quick cuts, filters, and dramatic captions. But behind the edited smiles, Chloe was terrified of fading into digital obscurity. Her views had been dropping for months, and the brand deals that once paid her rent were starting to dry up. In a moment of desperation, she came up with a plan that she thought would change everything. Her idea was simple, or at least it seemed that way in her head. She would disappear, not forever, just long enough to make people care again. She believed that if she faked her own disappearance, her followers would rally around her, the media would pick up the story. And when she finally returned, she'd reveal it was all part of an elaborate social experiment about online obsession and misinformation. It sounded brilliant to her, a mix of performance art and personal comeback. The plan began on a Friday night in late August. Chloe told her roommate she was going out to film a late-night vlog by the lakeside, something about night reflections. She packed her camera, a small tripod, and a few props to make it look like she'd been there for hours. Her phone recorded her leaving the apartment complex at 8:40 p.m. At 9:17, her car was spotted by a traffic camera near Canyon Lake, and that was the last official sighting of her before everything spiraled out of control. The next morning, hikers found her car parked crookedly near a boat ramp. The driver's door was open, the keys were still in the ignition, and her phone lay face down on the front seat with a cracked screen. Police were called immediately. Within hours, the area was sealed off with yellow tape. Drones scanned the lake while divers searched the murky water. News crews arrived before noon, broadcasting live from the scene. Her name and face spread across social media like wildfire. To the world, it looked like a kidnapping or something worse. To Chloe, hiding miles away in a rented cabin, it was working perfectly. She watched the chaos unfold on her burner laptop, switching between news clips and Twitter hashtags. Hashtag Finchlow trended nationwide by evening. She had planned for this: the attention, the tears from strangers, the speculation. It was all part of her performance, but even in those first few hours, cracks began to show. Detectives noticed details that didn't make sense. Her phone's GPS showed no sign of struggle or sudden movement before it was left behind. The car door's fingerprints were wiped clean. And then there was the oddest thing of all: a small drone controller left in her glove compartment, its last use recorded around the same time she supposedly vanished. It was as if someone had been filming from above. While Chloe sat in that quiet cabin thinking she was in control of the narrative, the police were already piecing together clues she hadn't even realized she'd left behind. What she saw as a game was quickly turning into a full-scale investigation, one she wouldn't be able to edit or delete. Investigators moved quickly once Chloe's disappearance hit national news. The initial theory was that she might have been abducted, but something about the scene felt staged. Detective Laura Kent, who led the case, noticed early on that nothing looked random. The way the phone had been placed, the unlocked car door, even the missing purse, it all seemed deliberate, as if someone wanted the discovery to look dramatic. The forensic team confirmed that there were no signs of a struggle, no footprints leading into the lake, and no tire marks showing a chase or sudden stop. Everything was strangely clean. The first real lead came from traffic cameras along the highway that bordered the lake. At 9:17 p.m., Chloe's car was caught passing a gas station. But when detectives zoomed in on the footage, they froze. The driver didn't appear to be Chloe. The figure was wearing a dark hoodie and gloves, and their face was never visible. That image shifted the investigation in a new direction. Someone else might have been helping her or pretending to be her. While field teams searched the nearby woods and lakeshore, digital forensics took over Chloe's online accounts. Investigators found that her social media pages were still posting even after she had supposedly gone missing. The captions sounded like her, but every post was pre-scheduled. The timestamps matched uploads created weeks earlier. She had planned her disappearance down to the minute. The level of organization shocked the team. There were pre-written captions, hashtags, and geotags to make it look like she was still around. It wasn't the behavior of a random victim, it was the work of someone setting up a storyline. Police obtained a warrant to access her email records and cloud storage. That's when they discovered encrypted messages linked to a second account under a fake name. The account had been used to order a range of items: prepaid phones, memory cards, a camping stove, and a week-long cabin rental under the alias Maya Allen. The payments were made using cryptocurrency, making them difficult to trace. But one mistake gave her away: a delivery confirmation sent to her real email. Every new discovery made the case stranger. Chloe's followers online continued spreading theories, claiming she had been taken by a stalker or joined an underground cult. Some said she was alive and watching the chaos unfold, waiting for the perfect moment to reappear. Police ignored the noise, focusing on the growing evidence that Chloe had orchestrated everything herself. The most revealing clue came from her laptop data logs. The night before she vanished, she had searched terms like how long before a missing person becomes national news and how to schedule uploads remotely. Her plan wasn't spontaneous, it was months in the making. By the third day, the investigation team connected the burner account to a rental cabin deep in the mountains, about 2 hours north of Phoenix. It was booked just a week before her disappearance. When officers drove out to check, they found faint tire tracks leading up a dirt road. Inside the cabin's mailbox was an envelope with no name, only a flash drive inside. The drive contained video files of Chloe sitting under bright lights, smiling directly at the camera as she announced that something big was about to happen. The mystery that had gripped the public was beginning to unravel, but for detectives, one unsettling thought remained: if Chloe had planned this entire performance, how far was she willing to go to keep it going? When detectives entered the cabin Chloe had rented, the first thing they noticed was how untouched everything seemed. There was no sign of panic or struggle, no mess left behind. Instead, it looked like a carefully organized workspace. The small wooden table near the window held a laptop still plugged in, a half-empty energy drink, and a notebook filled with sketches and scribbled notes about angles, timing, and final upload. A camera tripod stood facing a backdrop of plain fabric, and next to it were several bright ring lights, the kind used by influencers to film flawless videos. As the team looked around, it became clear that this was more than a hideout. It was a studio, a place where Chloe had filmed and edited content for her so-called disappearance. On the laptop, the investigators found folders labeled Episode 1, Escape, and Final Reveal. Each contained pre-recorded videos of Chloe in different emotional states. In one, she appeared scared and whispered about being followed. In another, she was defiant, saying she was fighting back against her captors. The final video showed her smiling calmly, promising that everything would make sense soon. All of it had been filmed weeks before she went missing. The more footage they watched, the more disturbing it became. She had rehearsed every scene, changing her clothes and hair to make it look like time was passing. She had even added background noises: sirens, doors slamming, footsteps to make the recordings sound authentic. It was a performance built to deceive millions. The timestamps on the files proved that she had crafted her disappearance step by step, editing and scheduling her content like a professional producer. Detectives also found a whiteboard leaning against the wall. On it was a timeline with boxes labeled Launch, Discovery, Rescue, and Reappearance. Each phase had notes beside it: when to release specific clips, what hashtags to use, and even which news outlets were most likely to pick up the story. She had written phrases like audience engagement peak and view spike after day 3. To Chloe, this wasn't just a prank, it was a campaign designed to manipulate attention. What unsettled the investigators most was the cabin's surveillance footage. The property owner had installed a basic security system with cameras pointed toward the driveway. When the police checked the feed, they saw Chloe loading two large duffel bags into her car at dawn, about 12 hours before officers discovered the scene at the lake. She moved calmly, wearing sunglasses and a hoodie, showing no sign of distress. One of the bags was red and the other black. The red one was found in the cabin closet, filled with clothes, makeup, and camera gear. The black one was never recovered. The discovery raised new questions. Where had she gone with that missing bag, and what was inside it? Investigators expanded their search to nearby motels, gas stations, and rest stops, checking surveillance cameras for any trace of her. They found a few blurry clips that might have shown her car traveling north, but none were clear enough to confirm. As the detectives packed up the equipment to take back for analysis, a strange realization settled in. Chloe had been documenting everything, leaving digital traces as if she wanted to be followed, as if the chase itself was part of the story. What none of them knew yet was that her plan was still unfolding, and the next phase of her performance had already begun. 3 days after detectives searched the cabin, something unexpected happened. A new video appeared on Chloe's channel without warning. It was titled "The Truth They Don't Want You to Know." Within minutes, it exploded across every platform. The video opened with Chloe sitting in front of a plain white wall, her expression calm but serious. She looked straight into the camera and said that she was safe, that she had escaped from a dangerous situation, and that the public deserved to know what really happened. Her story was vague, filled with dramatic pauses and emotional statements, and she claimed that she would reveal everything soon. To her fans, it was shocking. To investigators, it was confusing. They were certain Chloe was still missing, yet the upload had gone live automatically. The video's metadata confirmed it had been pre-scheduled, set to publish days after her disappearance. That meant Chloe had planned this timing deliberately, knowing the public would be desperate for answers. The post racked up millions of views and hours, drawing in both sympathy and anger. News outlets replayed the clip on loop, speculating whether she was truly safe or manipulating the world for attention. While the internet buzzed, the police worked quietly behind the scenes. They used the upload data to pinpoint the location of the device that had sent it. It traced back to the same laptop from the cabin, but the signal bounced through several VPN layers, hiding her real location. What Chloe didn't realize was that other digital traces were harder to erase. Her smartwatch, synced to a cloud account, continued to send health data. It showed her heart rate, sleep patterns, and most importantly, her movements. Investigators discovered that, around the same time her video went live, the device had been detected near a motel on the outskirts of Reno, Nevada. Detectives alerted local authorities, and they began quietly checking motels for anyone matching her description. It didn't take long. At a small roadside lodge, the manager remembered a young woman who had checked into nights earlier under the name Lena White. She had paid in cash, requested a ground floor room, and carried only one large duffel bag. The police confirmed her identity through the security footage, where she could be seen carrying that same missing black bag. When officers arrived at the motel, Chloe was in the middle of editing another video. Her laptop showed an unfinished thumbnail with the title "The Escape, My Final Story." She didn't resist arrest. Instead, she appeared almost proud, as if everything was going according to her script. The room was cluttered with props, a fake newspaper article about her disappearance, a wig, and printed screenshots of online news headlines about her case. The detectives realized she had intended to release one last video revealing her safe return, turning the investigation into the grand finale of her online series. But the reality was far from glamorous. Every device she owned had betrayed her. The smartwatch, the automatic uploads, the metadata, all the technology she had used to build her brand had become the evidence that led directly to her capture. As she was escorted out of the motel, cameras flashed from every direction. Reporters had already gathered outside, tipped off by a leak. Chloe didn't look frightened. She looked like someone stepping onto a red carpet, ready for another spotlight. In her mind, the show wasn't over, the performance had just reached its next act, and she believed the world was still watching. Chloe's arrest became a nationwide spectacle within hours. Her name dominated every news cycle, and her story sparked endless debates about the blurred line between internet fame and real-world responsibility. As she was escorted into the police station, cameras followed her every move. She smiled faintly, as if she were still performing for her audience. The investigators, however, saw none of the glamour. They saw a young woman who had manipulated thousands of people, wasted public resources, and turned law enforcement into unwilling participants in her online drama. During questioning, Chloe admitted that the entire stunt had been planned months in advance. She described it not as a crime, but as an art project, a statement about how people believed whatever they saw online. She explained how she had mapped out each step, from leaving her car by the lake to recording fake hostage videos. She had even researched the average timeline of a missing person investigation so she could predict how the story would unfold. Her tone stayed calm and analytical, as if she were describing a school project rather than a national hoax. The investigators documented every detail, piecing together how she had pulled it off. She had scheduled social media posts through automation tools, used VPNs to hide her location, and manipulated timestamps to make everything look genuine. What she didn't account for was how unpredictable the real world could be. Search teams, media coverage, and online speculation had turned her plan into something far larger than she expected. What she saw as a clever game had triggered massive search operations, volunteer efforts, and emotional distress among her family and fans. Once the truth became public, the reaction online shifted sharply. Many of her followers, who once begged for her safe return, now flooded her pages with anger. They called her selfish, cruel, and desperate for fame. Some still defended her, claiming she was a performance artist misunderstood by the system. But most people saw it for what it was, an elaborate lie that spiraled out of control. The comments under her videos filled with disappointment and disbelief. Her brand deals vanished overnight, and several sponsors publicly condemned her actions. In court, Chloe faced multiple charges, including filing a false police report, obstruction of justice, and wasting emergency services. The prosecution presented hours of footage, screenshots, and communication logs showing how she had orchestrated everything. The defense argued that she had not intended harm and that it was all a misguided attempt at storytelling. The judge disagreed. The sentence was modest compared to the media attention it received, but the message was clear. Attention is not an excuse for deception. Even after her conviction, the fascination with Chloe didn't fade. Documentaries, podcasts, and social media breakdowns analyzed her case from every angle. People dissected her behavior, her motives, and the digital trail she left behind. Months after the trial, investigators discovered one last piece of her plan, a private video uploaded to her channel and set to publish automatically 6 months later. The title read, "Did I Fool You?" It was quickly taken down before it went live, but not before speculation spread online. By then, Chloe had become a cautionary figure, a name used in media studies and ethics classes as an example of how far the chase for online validation could go. She had achieved the fame she wanted, but not in the way she imagined. Every trace of her story remained online, frozen in time, a digital monument to one generation's obsession with being seen.